Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. Let me begin with a warning dressed up as comfort. Nothing is more dangerous than believing we understand something simply because we're familiar with it. Some books hand us information. Others hand us a mirror sharpened to a blade. They make us examine the most natural movements of the mind under a bright, unforgiving light. Thinking, fast and slow, belongs to that second category. It does not tell us how to think. It meticulously, sometimes mischievously, reveals that much of what we mistake for thinking is a chain of reflexes and illusions running in the shadows of awareness. Reading it is like opening the door to a room you've lived in all your life and finally switching on the lights. Today, we're going to open that door together. We'll trace the roots of our snap judgments, our hasty conclusions, and our ironclad beliefs that suddenly feel fragile under the lamp of reason. And then a quiet question rises for each of us. If my own brain so often misleads me, who exactly am I when I make the decisions that shape my life? Let's start with the two characters inside your head, fast and slow. Instinct and deliberation, a play of reason and reflex. Imagine a stage where the actors rarely share the spotlight. One is lightning quick, intuitive, ever alert, finishing sentences before they're spoken, pulling you back from a speeding shadow before you even know why. The other is unhurried, careful, calculating, more judge than juggler, who weighs evidence, checks assumptions, and asks for proof. The fast character is the autopilot that never sleeps. It is the flash of recognition when you spot a face you can't name, the effortless completion of a cliché, the split-second flinch when something flies toward you. It doesn't explain or analyze, it reacts. And it is often right, until it isn't. It works through vast webs of association, where every word, image, and memory links to another. Say, doctor, and nurse, arrives. Say, bread, and butter, follows. Because it loves speed, it also loves ease. When something is repeated, printed clearly, easy to pronounce, wrapped in warm colors, this system stamps it reliable. A familiar line persuades more than a new one, even when they say the same thing. That is why rumors repeated enough times begin to glitter like truth. It's why bold type, a friendly package, or a name that rolls off the tongue can tilt your judgment. This is cognitive ease whispering. This feels familiar, so it must be safe. First impressions then cast their glow across everything that follows, the halo effect. A stern face reads as difficult. A trembling voice reads as deceit. The conclusions arrive as quickly as a blink. But speed is no guarantee of accuracy. All the while, this fast system is quietly writing the script of your days, convincing the slower system that it's in charge. In reality, it is a master of the illusion of truth. The slow character is the cautious magistrate. He steps out for the big cases, weighs alternatives, tallies costs and benefits, and tries to be fair. But he is expensive to run. Each appearance drains mental energy. So he delegates routine work to the faster partner and only intervenes when forced, and even then. He often plays the role of a lazy editor, approving what has already been drafted. This partnership, speed with a light touch of scrutiny, is efficient. And that is precisely what makes it dangerous. You can feel the partnership at the wheel. When you first learned to drive, the slow system labored over every movement. After hundreds of hours, the fast system absorbed the pattern and could ferry you home while your mind wandered. Only when something unexpected happened did the slow system lurch up and seize control. Or take the classic puzzle. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. And the bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much is the ball? 10 cents. Pops into mind, clean, fluent, wrong. The right answer is 5 cents. The tiny gap between the easy answer and the correct one is a spotlight on the trap. We accept the first answer because it arrives so smoothly. From here, the plot thickens. Anchoring tethers our estimates to the first number we hear. Show someone the sequence 876 before asking how many countries are in Africa, and they guess higher than if they saw 1 to 2 first. The fast system is yoked to context. When a question is hard, it quietly substitutes an easier one. How satisfied are you with your life? Becomes, what is my mood today? And you answer sincerely. None the wiser. As the slow system tires, decision fatigue lowers the bar. After a long morning of choices, Even a judge's rulings can tilt, more lenient early in the day, harsher when hungry and drained, proof that our minds run on fuel we often forget to replenish. The lesson is not that we are foolish, but that we are human, driven by two imperfect partners who take turns at the wheel. Beyond the duet, Kahneman maps the shortcuts, the heuristics, that let us navigate a storm of information in real time. They are brilliant, and they are biased in predictable ways. The availability heuristic confuses memorable with common. Hear about a shark attack and the ocean feels newly dangerous, even though the base rate hasn't budged. The representativeness heuristic judges by resemblance, not by probability. The polished stranger seems like a lawyer, and we forget the actual odds. Our brains detest randomness and rush to stitch causes to every market twitch. No matter how thin the data, once events are in the past, hindsight bias repaints uncertainty as inevitability. Of course the bubble burst, it was obvious. The frame around facts steers us without changing reality. A 90% survival rate thrills us more than a 10% mortality rate. Though they describe the same outcome, confirmation bias has us searching for comforting echoes of our first belief and skipping every dissonant note. We trust tiny samples as if they were the whole. Kahneman calls it the law of small numbers, and we fall for coherent stories that feel right even when the statistics say they cannot be true. The most dangerous illusion is not that these shortcuts exist, but that we personally are immune to them. We aren't. Now, consider the trap of overconfidence, the invisible snare of the mind. Confidence is courage. Overconfidence is carelessness with good manners. It grows from an illusion of understanding. After an outcome arrives, we spin a story that connects the dots so smoothly we forget we were ever unsure. We downgrade luck when we win and upgrade skill when we lose. We blame the weather. The Dunning-Kruger effect sharpens the paradox. Novices often overrate their abilities, while those who are truly skilled doubt themselves because they know what can go wrong. Experts are not spared. A run of success in a favorable market masquerades as proof of talent in a world that is noisier than we admit. Leaders who project total certainty cast a spell. Teams stop challenging precisely when they should. Overconfidence shrinks our sense of risk, blinds us to surprise, and invites decisions that feel bold but rest on sand. The remedy is not timidity, but intellectual humility, a deliberate practice of building dissent into our process. Asking for contrary evidence, and keeping one plain sentence within reach. I might be wrong. We also don't choose on an absolute scale. We judge gains and losses against a reference point that slides with mood, memory, and comparison. If you expected 20 and end up with 25, you feel rewarded. If you expected 30 and end up with 25, you feel punished. Same number, different feeling, because the story changed. This is the heart of prospect theory, whose most famous feature is loss aversion. Losses hurt roughly twice as much as equivalent gains feel good. Suddenly, otherwise puzzling behaviors make sense. Investors cling to losers, refusing to make the loss real. But they sell winners quickly to lock in a small gain, even when patience might pay more. The framing of outcomes, survival versus mortality, cost versus savings, nudges decisions by changing the wrapper, not the contents. Reference points are slippery. The moment you learn your friend paid less for the same flight, satisfaction drains away, and the endowment effect means that once something is ours, we prize it more and find it harder to give up, whether it's a mug on a desk, a job title on a card, a relationship past its time, or a habit that no longer serves us. We are not calculators of absolutes. We are storytellers measuring our lives against invisible yardsticks. Finally, the question that unsettles and clarifies in equal measure. When you say, "I'm happy," which I is speaking? Kahneman separates two selves. The experiencing self lives inside the flow of time. It tastes the coffee, feels the knee ache, hears the laughter. Its happiness is the quality of moments as they pass. The remembering self is the biographer who writes afterward. It does not count minutes, it remembers peaks and endings. That is why a magnificent vacation with a stormy final day can live in memory as disappointing, while a modest trip that ends in sunshine glows for years. Here's the twist that matters. The remembering self is the one that decides our future. It chooses the next vacation, the next job, the next treatment plan, drawn to the promise of a better story rather than the guarantee of better moments. This creates a paradox. We build futures to please the storyteller, but it is the experiencer who must live while we build. The tyranny of memory is not that it exists, but that it rules without us noticing. What, then, should we do with the light this book turns on? We start by naming what we see. When a statement slides down easily, ask whether the ease comes from clarity or from familiarity. When the first number hits your ears, treat it as a magnet and step back. When a question feels hard, pause long enough to check whether your mind has swapped it for an easier one. Protect the energy of the slow system when the stakes are high. Make important choices earlier in the day. Sleep on consequential decisions. Write down your initial view. Then hunt, deliberately, for evidence that could prove it wrong. In groups, design for dissent. Assign someone to argue the other side. Insist on base rates before stories. And separate predictions from incentives so that truth, not face saving, wins the room. In money and career, expect loss aversion to color your vision and build guardrails in advance. Decide the conditions under which you will exit a position before emotion arrives. Compare options in multiple frames, costs and benefits, survival and risk, so words don't steer you in the dark. And when you catch yourself clutching something merely because it is yours, ask whether ownership has inflated its value. In life, learn to negotiate between the two selves. Plan peaks and good endings for the storyteller. It will write the narrative you carry. But protect the texture of ordinary days for the experiencer, the one who has to live your schedule. Your relationships, your habits, a life that reads well in memory and feels good to live is not an accident, it is a choice repeated in small, concrete ways. None of this, by the way, is an argument for cynicism. Kahneman is not asking us to distrust the mind, he is asking us to become better stewards of it. The fast system is a marvel that keeps us alive and lets us move through complexity at human speed. The slow system is our check and balance when the cost of error is high. Wisdom is not choosing one over the other, it is knowing when to let each lead and building rituals, rules, and environments where the right one shows up at the right time. So, as we close, I invite you to a small experiment this week. Catch a moment of cognitive ease and say, "Let me verify." Catch a seductive frame and ask, "What's the same fact, differently wrapped?" Catch a rush of certainty and whisper, "Or not." When you plan something important, ask which self you're serving, and whether the other needs a seat at the table. If your own brain can sometimes fool you, you are not powerless, you are responsible. And responsibility begins with turning on the light. Thank you for listening, and for the courage to examine the instrument you use to examine everything else. If this talk gave you one useful lens, share the bias you'll watch for this week. And if you'd like more talks that turn big ideas into better decisions, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. I read every one.